Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. Today, we have one of my newer sponsors in Amex Exploration on to talk about their news release that they had out on Wednesday, and it was just packed with information that gets an exploration guy like me very excited, especially when I see 134 grams of gold over 1.8 meters. And then I scrolled into the news release and I saw where that gold came from, and it was spectacular, visible gold. And so I've got VP Exploration Aaron Stone on today to dig deeper into that news release.
Hi, Alan. Thanks very much for having me again. Always a pleasure to be on.
Yeah, well, just to put it into context for people, you guys had a maiden or a mineral resource estimate out. I think that people have to understand that not all mineral resource estimates are created the same. Some are created to have arm wavy big numbers in them that could take many years before, usually, off almost always, take many years before you can throw economics around them because they are arm wavy. Lots of inferred resources, lots of gaps in so but when you're doing a resource estimate to have economics wrapped around it in a preliminary economic assessment, then you have to tighten things up. You have to confine what you're doing. And even in a confined resource of 1.5 million ounces with drill holes all over the place that didn't make it into that, it's important for people to understand that this was done to prepare for a preliminary economic assessment, which is expected to come out in the not too distant future. Usually that doesn't happen in my career, Aaron, where within months after, well, the ink is still drying on your mineral resource estimate, that a PEA gets done on it. So, but then in between those two events, you guys keep on drilling and you keep finding good stuff. So I wanted to put it into context. If you've got any comments about the context, and then we can deal with the news release of a couple of days ago.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was always the goal of the company was to get the economics of the project out as soon as humanly possible after the release of the MRE, which was on September 5th, and we're gearing up to release the news of the PEA in the next couple of weeks here. We've repeatedly told the market that we should be ready for mid Q4. So PEA news will be out very very soon here in the next couple of weeks. And since the information of the MRE has come in hand, that's also been able to really help us as well, got better guide drilling on the Perron project as well, as we've already started identifying, you know, gaps in the mineral resource estimate simply due to a lack of drilling. And we've
Excellent.
identified, underground stopes that remain open for expansion, as well as areas where we can begin to expand upon the open pits as well. Once we have the PEA information in hand, then our drill planning will become even more refined, as we'll be able to focus on not only just adding ounces to the project, but adding economic ounces. So we'll be able to visualize in 3D in our leapfrog modeling where we can not only add ounces in between places that we can expand upon this underground stopes and pits that have been modeled, but also compare the MRE to the PEA and focus on adding economic ounces, not just any ounces. So.
Yeah, and sometimes, Aaron, and I like to have geos on the show because I think that it helps investors understand what geologists pay attention to, because that can affect your investment. And For me, when I looked at that MRE, I don't always pay a lot of attention to the ounces because I know it's a snapshot in time that is sort of reflected by what how much drilling data could you do and then get into the resource calculation. What I pay a lot of attention to, and I think you probably do as well, is the gap between your cutoff grade and your average grade, because that gives you a sense of the where your IRR is going to go in the preliminary economic assessment. And so, what I like to see in a resource estimate is how well you've confined and the inputs that you put into that clearly reflect an accurate cutoff grade, which is represented by what can reasonably be expected in a mining scenario, and then the gap between that and the grade. And that's someone asked me the other day, well, do you like to look for net present value? And I said, no, I don't. I don't like looking forward to look backwards. I don't like trying to project what's forward because there's a bunch of variables that can happen along the way. What I like to know is what's the IRR today? And then I'll worry about the rest from there on. I can look at the gold price and punch my own numbers into what I think that's valued. So, long winded question there, but what do you think about when you look at a resource estimate?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a fantastic point. And our, for in our MRE, the average grade for the entire property was sitting around 4 grams per ton. But obviously, the focus of that was the high grade zone, which was sitting at around 11 grams per ton. And as I think I previously mentioned before, as we increase in confidence as well, our inferred resources in the high grade zone were approximately 10.5 grams. The indicated resource then went up to 12 grams, and our measured resources, while only a small portion at this point in time, but that will continue to grow into the future. We're at 15.9, I think, almost 16 grams per ton. So as we increase in confidence in our with further tightening our drill spacing, the gold grade continues to improve on the property. And I think as well, obviously, in talking about cutoff grades and things like that, location is obviously extremely important. So where we are, we're right next to a historic mining town where a lot of the people that still reside in the town are extremely supportive of us and want a new mining project right next to their village. So and as well as multiple other towns in the area, smack bang in the middle of the Abitibi. So that also helps out a lot with the with those cutoff grades, but also the economics that you're going to be seeing in the PA in the not too distant future.
So not only are you on a prolific belt with massive regional mining, but getting into where your immediate neighborhood is, you're right beside a town that was built for mining, that you can drive about, I think it's less than 10 kilometers from the city right to the property. And then you got the big test. You got cell phone coverage. You're so close to the town. So why this is all important, folks, is when you're calculating a cutoff grade, you're trying to look at what reasonably would be the costs to mine. And that gives you your average cost of mining is your cutoff grade. And so if you're beside a town, you don't have to build camps, no fly-in camp, no you don't have to build your own energy system. All of these things affect that cutoff grade. And the lower you have the cutoff grade, the more money you could make off the gold that you have in that system.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We're very lucky to be where we are when we're not, super up north or anything and don't have to build our own airport or anything like that. The Lasai airport's only a 10-20 minute drive from the site. You can even order You can even order Boston pizza right to the drill rigs, which is a stunt the guys have pulled off a couple of times. So the transformer station is right next to the town as well, which provides hydroelectricity to the Casa Berardi mine, 60 kilometers to the north of us. We drive for our core shacks directly in the town of Normantal. To get to the rigs is about a 10-15 minute drive, depending on where we're drilling. So we're extreme, yeah, cell coverage, like you said. We're extremely lucky to be located where we are.
So there again, folks, what Aaron is highlighting is some of the things that make that cutoff grade go up. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, you got to diesel generate your power, you got to build a camp, all of these things combined go into understanding that cutoff grade. When you're right beside a mining town, literally where you can own Boston Pizza, I know people may think of that as a throwaway line, but in reality, that affects your cutoff grade. Your cost to mine stuff goes dramatically down. And so this is why, well, one of the reasons I've always been impressed with the Perron project is the high grade, the continuity of the high grade in that high grade zone, and then all of these gold zones packed right beside each other. And, that in itself suggests to me that there's a big, powerful mineralizing system hidden below that you haven't even tapped into. But that high grade zone has remarkable continuity going well over a kilometer into depth, which, that's pretty impressive stuff.
And remains open at depth as well. We've defined it to roughly 1.3, 1.4 kilometers vertically so far in the resource, and remains open. So the Normantal mine, which was a VMS mine, which is why the town of Normantal was built, was mined down to a depth of 2.4 kilometers vertically. So we know that these mineralizing systems in the area can have extremely deep roots. So
Well, and it's an orogenic gold system, so that in itself has, but usually to get that kind of high grade continuity starting right at surface and continuing down for 1,000 meters, I've looked at a lot of origin. Well, there's not a lot to look at, but I've looked at some of the best gold mines in the world, and they are high grade. They are the orogenic gold systems, and they generally, they start at the first 1,000 meters or 500 meters or 700 meters of, sort of so. And then you get down to the bonanza zone and it just is magical. But you've got signs of that magical starting right at surface and going down 1,000 meters and still being open. And that, my friends, is why you had a chap that is a brilliant researcher write a scientific paper about how impressive the high grade zone is at Perron.
yeah, he's written two scientific papers now, actually.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. I've read them both. And what I don't want to paraphrase incorrectly, but he's basically saying that this is remarkable or unique in the orogenic gold systems to have such impressive continuity of the high grade.
Yeah, no, that's right. And for us in the high grade zone, out you were talking about bonanza zones, Alan. For us in the high grade zone, our first bonanza zone is only starts 150, 200 meters below surface. So it's soon as you put the ramp in, start ramping down, you're in the high grade material in the early stages of the mine life. So it's yeah, it's gonna be really good for the payback period of the mine as well.
And here's another little inside baseball that I don't think everybody pays attention to, but I certainly do. And the reason I do, Aaron, is because I spent a lot of my career in diamonds. And I know that when you have ultra nuggety effect, that how you sample that can be challenging. Okay, so here's the story, folks. When you're poking little holes into a high grade zone and you're getting these nuggets, you can be 6 inches away or a foot or a meter, and you have great rock, but you were a foot or a meter away from understanding that. And so to have what you have already found in the with drilling is it's not lost on me that if you were able to get in there and bulk sample it and get a representative grade, every time I've seen that happen in a high grade nuggety system, usually your grade goes up when you can bulk sample it because then you're getting everything. You're not just getting a little hole into it.
Yeah, no, that's right. But we have found though that especially in the high grade zone that, for example, if you were to twin a hole in the high grade zone, the results are actually remarkably similar. So we don't have too much of a nuggety effect going on in the high grade zone. The continuity, as you were saying, is pretty remarkable. The thing that we do notice though is that as we increase in drill size, because we did do larger drill holes for the metallurgical testing that we did in the high grade zone, and those results did come back higher grade than our normal NQ drilling. That's our normal size drilling. So you're right in saying that the more material you have, the better representation of the zone you have, and usually the higher grade results you start to get. But the our drilling, like it's closely spaced drilling, the results are remarkably similar. So the nugget effect is not too much to worry about, especially in the high grade zone.
Okay, but you know you've seen that transition that as you get more density of drilling, you're not losing gold, you're actually gaining gold.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd be confident that if one day we were to do a bulk sample, that bulk sample would be able to beat the resource estimation in that zone. So much like, the Cisco guys at Windfall with the three bulk samples that they did, they all came back better than the what the model was predicting. I'd be confident that the same thing would happen at the Perron project.
Right? Just because you're getting more volume, you're getting more representation. But I do appreciate that what you said there is important, folks, that the high grade is fairly homogeneous. When you can poke two holes down, you're not really getting caught into that problem of, well, there's a nugget here, there's a nugget over here, and I got to hit both nuggets to get all the gold. Here, that high grade is sort of well distributed throughout your holes.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Wow, that in itself kind of gives me a bit of goosebumps because that's not what you usually see, which again emphasizes why I've been so impressed with since the discovery hole of the high grade zone, and it just gets better and better and better. And I think that trend will continue as you do get more definition of more density of your drilling and then get to start taking bulk samples and ultimately mine that stuff.
Yeah, no, that's right. And we've showed as well, obviously with the results that we put out this week, that there is very high grade gold that exists outside of the high grade zone as well. That's that there is other high grade zones to be found out there on the property. So the result that we put out on Wednesday was an extremely exciting one. And
Well, we can talk about numbers, 134 grams over 1.8 meters, but you actually have a picture of some of that. And folks,
yeah, absolutely.
this is
I'll
what
share.
gets gold exploring guys out of bed. When you start seeing you,
Yeah, this was definitely some.
oh
Oh,
my
I've
gosh.
zoomed in a bit much there, but yeah, definitely some attractive photos to look at. This was a very exciting hit for the guys when the core came into the core shed. It's visually visually stunning to look at as it's a beautiful piece of material.
And that's a very apt word, stunning. That, my friends, is what gets the blood flowing for a gold exploration guy. It's wow. That's just off the charts. So looking at that big chunky visible gold is where's more of that, Aaron?
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's the next goal is to find the continuation of this. So but I've personally in my career never seen that much visible gold carried by a sphalerite stringer like that. So
So
that
the
was an extremely special
sphalerite
find.
and the gold, there was a quartz vein there, and then it came in and blew out the quartz and left you with sphalerite and
Yeah,
gold.
yeah, that's essentially right. You can kind of see the remnants of the quartz carbonate veinlet there, but essentially the quartz carbonate veinlet has almost been completely replaced by sphalerite, and then obviously carried all this native gold with it as well. So that is one certainly unique characteristic about the Perron project. A lot of these orogenic systems in the Abitibi, you don't typically see gold related to sphalerite. Um, Down more in the Val d'Or camp and areas like that is, association minerals. You get more tourmaline, and if we're talking about sulfides, more pyrite and pyrrhotite typically. So, but considering our location and because we're essentially in an area where other companies in the past were just looking for VMS deposits, we're essentially people could tend to say we're in a VMS camp with all this gold around. So this is why we've got that sphalerite there, because there has been a remobilization of some of that VMS mineralization from that can be found in the Normatal volcanic complex that has been during the gold mineralizing event remobilized into the Beaupré block, and this is why we see such an abundance of sphalerite within the
Wow.
rhyolite of the Beaupré block too. So.
And I'm glad you have that picture up there because this is something that really is quite impressive to me. You look at the high grade zone, and then as a satellite around it, you've got all this other high grade and gold mineralization all compressed into a small area of a lot of gold mineralization, which has always thought in my back of my mind, well, sometimes in the front of my mind too, is where did all this come from?
Well, structure is important, right, Alan? And so we've the Beauclerk block is certainly a special piece of rock. It's essentially a rhyolitic dome,
Yeah.
and that has been squeezed between those two major faults there, the Normantal fault to the north and the Perron fault to the south. So structure is extremely important in these systems, and that's a large part into why we're finding all this gold mineralization within the Beaupré block. But in saying that, there is gold mineralization that continues into the Normantal South block
Exactly.
in the Gratien zone as well,
Yes.
which is a series of stacked
So you're
multiple.
getting it on the other side of the fault.
That's right. That's right. And we've barely done any exploration at all in this entire Normantal South block, which is a mafic volcanic and andesite. So typically, most of these orogenic gold systems in the Abitibi are usually found in the mafic volcanics, not the felsic volcanics, which is what the Beaupré block is.
Yes.
So we've done very little work in this southern block so far. So the potential
But
for a
it's
lot of these
wide
structures that
open.
are found within the Beaupré continuing into the Normantal South block gets me pretty excited for further discoveries as well. So
Now, speaking of those structures, do I have this part right? The southern structure dips to the north, and the northern structure dips to the south. Is that correct?
no, no, they both gently dipping at roughly 70 degrees to the northeast. So
To the
so that
northeast. Okay, okay.
exactly. So the Normantal fault is also dipping to the northeast as well.
Oh, so they're both going in the same parallel to each other, but
Yeah.
sort of sandwiched in between there, almost like half of a ship, where you is the half of the keel is kind of the middle, or maybe the fault structure is the middle of the keel of the ship, and the southern structure is the side of the ship, if you will. I always try to make this as simple as I can for non-geos out there, Aaron.
Interesting analogy, but I like it.
Is it kind of in the ballpark?
Yeah, well, essentially, like you've got the rhyolitic. So essentially, to be able to piece all the geology together, the Youngin direction is to of the whole system here is to the south, right?
Okay.
So the youngest rocks are in the Normantal South Block. The oldest rocks are in the Normantal Volcanic Complex. Everything's been flipped vertically. So if you were to flip it all back on itself, how it was originally in place, you'd have the Normantal Volcanic Complex. That's the oldest set of rocks sitting on the bottom. Then you had the Beaupré Block, which is a rhyolitic dome placed on top of the volcanic complex, and we only find that rhyolitic dome on our property. There's no extensions off it anywhere else. Then you've got the Normantal South Block, which is the andesite that was then laid on top of that. When everything was verticalized, a lot of because of those extensional and compressional stresses, that's when those faults and all those important structures came into play, and the gold mineralization was able to follow those structures, and obviously a lot of secondary structures were then created within the Beaupré block itself as well, which is where we find a lot of that gold mineralization. So.
So I didn't just want to geek out with you, Aaron. What I'm trying to, earlier I said you got all these gold zones packed together. So the question is, where does it come from? It didn't come from outer space, it came from deeper. And why I wanted to sort of lay the groundwork of that idea is because what I'm trying to figure out in my mind is, where did all of this come from deeper? Where's the source of all this gold mineralization? And if you kind of looked at it like a bathtub with an angle instead of a vertical side to your bathtub, it's got to be down there somewhere. There's so much of it that it has to be a big, powerful, long-lived gold mineralizing system that you still haven't found the source, but I think you might be getting some evidence of where the source might be. Do
Yeah,
I have
no,
that
that's
right?
no, no, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. These structures are extremely deep seated, which is why these systems can run extremely deep. And the impressive thing about the hit from the extension of the CPZ zone as well is that, like I was saying, the Youngin direction is to the south, and our CPZ zone is number 9, which
Yes.
is at the southern portion of the Beaupré block, which is actually, if you flip the geology back on itself, that's actually sitting on the top of the rhyolitic dome. So the fact that some of this VMS mineralization is found on the top of the rhyolitic dome, that means these structures have picked up the existing VMS mineralization from the volcanic complex in this blue horizon here is called the actually named after the Normantal mine. It's called the Normantal mine horizon. So if you follow that 4 kilometers to the southeast, you'll find the historically producing Normantal mine. These structures have picked up some of that VMS mineralization during the gold mineralization event and remobilized some of that VMS mineralization along with the gold all the way to the top of the Beaupré block. So that's to say that some of this gold rich VMS mineralization, there could be other bits of it that we haven't found in other portions of the Beaupré block that are closer to the Normantal volcanic complex. So
Now,
it's
when
pretty
you say
impressive that these structures have brought that up all the way to the top of the dome.
and when you say bits, um, the Normantal mine was not a small VMS system. That was on world standards, that was quite substantial.
Yeah, no, that's right. It was mine down to a depth of 2.4 kilometers vertically, as I said, bit over 10 million tons off, I think two off the top of my head, 2.2% copper, 5.4 zinc, 44.5 grams silver, and a little bit of gold in there as well.
Oh,
So,
well,
very,
that's
very,
super
very,
rich.
yeah, very similar grades to what we see in our QF zone number 11 there. Which the only difference is our system is actually a bit more copper rich than zinc rich. But I'd be obviously the focus for us at the Perron project is the gold mineralization. But I'd be willing to hedge a bet that if we continued exploring along the Normantal mine horizon, that there are much more VMS deposits to be found along that horizon, which would also explain why some of that VMS mineralization has been remobilized into the Beaupré block as well.
And it's associated with the gold mineralization as well.
That's right.
Boy, Aaron, for an exploration guy, this kind of has to be a bit mind-boggling to think of all of that gold mineralization and then the VMS mineralization and the association of the two and the plumbing system for it all. And, that makes this project Perron very unique. Uh, and I've been at this business for 30 years, and these kind of things don't come around very often, Aaron.
No, no, that's right. And when I was up on site a few months ago, we had a visit from the structural specialist, the structural geologist from El Dorado came up to have a site. Obviously, El Dorado owns 9.9% of the company, and he loves the project as well. One of his favorites that he's looked at worldwide. And essentially, that's what he was saying to me. It's like you guys are in this VMS camp with all this gold mineralization. So no one previously before Amex had really been looking for gold in that area. It was previously just thought to be a VMS camp. And now I found all this high grade gold as well. So it's nice to have the two as well. And as you know, obviously this is envisaged to be a gold mine. If you continue to grow the VMS mineralization as well, what's not to say that you could, truck that down the road to the smelter and wind that under as well. So a lot of variables to look at the Prom project. It's very exciting.
It's a big, beautiful puzzle. And does age dating help you in all of this, Aaron?
It does, and a lot of that is still going on. At the moment, we know we have an idea of the age of the Normantal volcanic complex, the rhyolite of the Beaupré dome, but at the moment we're also doing some chronology work, so aging work off the felsic to intermediate intrusives that were found in the JT zone. So that work is ongoing at the moment as well as people may have seen in this week's press release that we're trenching that zone as well to unsurface the JT dike underneath the overburden, which was only very shallow, 4 to 7 meters in the area, so almost no overburden at all, which was nice. To expose that at surface so we can get a lot more structural information out of it, observe its contacts with the rhyolite, and take a bunch of channel samples at surface as well. So hopefully that can start to unlock a lot more secrets about not only the age of these felsic to intermediate intrusives that have originated from the Normantal volcanic complex and intruded into the Beaupré block,
Yeah.
um, but also start to figure out its relationship with the gold mineralization in the block as well, and if there's any significance there also. So some exciting times ahead.
Well, why I put it into that, you've got a puzzle you're putting together, and you've already got a bunch of great puzzle pieces to that puzzle. But when you're talking about VMS mineralization and gold mineralization, folks, what that means is that there is different time horizons of when that mineralization came in. So if you can then do age dating of what you know you have, it can help you to understand what you don't know yet, and more accurately target other pieces, great pieces to the puzzle. Did I sort of wrap that up for it good, Aaron?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. We know that the VMS mineralization, so for an example, the QF zone number 11 is older and came first before the gold mineralization. So determining that relationship between the VMS and the gold is certainly very important.
And you have another uh, beautiful problem, a wonderful problem to have. As you were working on this resource estimate, you guys were trying to get as much as you could into a comprehensive resource, and then you kept on finding more stuff. Oh, there's more over here. There's more over here. So what originally you probably hoped for would take you a year, uh, morphed into a few years because of this wonderful problem of keep finding more stuff.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. The more drilling we do on the property, the more discoveries we continue to make. So it's always every day's an exciting one with the core coming into the core shack on a daily basis.
So you just described there, I don't know if you meant it, but one of my great mentors in geology, he always was able to take really complex information and boil it down to what really mattered. And his name was Bob Darney. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but kind of a legend in geology out in British Columbia. Spent a lot of his career up in the Golden Triangle. And so what he said to me is, Alan, every project, it starts out and it's big. You got big geochem, you got big geophysics. Then you start drilling it and putting more science on it, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. But the mines are different. He says the more science and drilling you put into it, the better and better and better and better it gets. And that is absolutely the trend. I can say that with confidence because I started following the Perron project in Amex off of its first discovery hole. So I've been following this thing evolving over the last, wow, it's got to be, I think, 45. I can't even remember how long now, but it's definitely following that Bob Darney indicator, if you will.
Yeah. No, the high grade zone was discovered in 2018, so you would have been following the story for at least 6 years now, and it's
Yeah, in the
been
fall of in like October or November of 2018. Now I remember.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
been since then. It's been drill. So it's pretty rare that you find projects that are just non-stop drilling all the time. So it's a special one.
So I think we've dealt with the context and we've dealt with the news. So what's coming? I'm sure that there's more drilling and more results because following up on the mineral resource estimate, you've got to sort of define and focus in on more increasing that resource estimate.
Yep.
Uh, and then you've also got the preliminary economic assessment, which again, folks, I'm very excited because it's going to give me the number that I like to see, which is the internal rate of return. I'm not going to speculate in front of you, Aaron, of what I think that I won't even speculate it on to anybody, but I think that this is going to prove to be a very robust, I guess I'll use that word, robust internal rate of return that gives people a pretty good idea that this is on its way to becoming a mine. I ultimately think that's where it will go. So, what's on the horizon?
Yeah, and I'm lucky as well with the PEAs coming up very soon, as you said, and we've got our VP of project development, Jonathan Garnier, who's been heading up the PEA, and he's a mining engineer. So I'm lucky as well that I've got a mining engineer in the team as well to help me out with all of that stuff and being able to explain all the economics and everything. So So he's been doing a great job heading that up, and I think the PEA is going to be a really, really important piece of work. And in the next few months and over the next year, the plan is obviously to continue to grow and expand. Like I was saying, now that we've got the MRE in hand, that's been able to really be able to us to allow us to refine the drill planning and continue to adding ounces to the project. And once we have the PEA information in hand and have a picture of those economic stopes and those economic open pits, then we'll be able to even further refine that drill planning to be able to add not only ounces but economic ounces, like I was saying. So the growth potential across our existing zones is immense, and as well the growth potential in terms of new discoveries is the main one that gets me out of bed in the morning as well. Like all of our zones remain open, and those are very important. And I truly believe there's more discoveries to be made here. So the western portions of that Beaupré block, especially, there's still very limited sparse drilling that's been done there.
Even
And
to the south of uh, the fault is escaping Perron fault. To the south,
yeah,
that's wide open as well.
100%. So this entire area here remains open for further discoveries. There's some exciting potential there, and like you were saying, the entire Normantown South block
Even to
remains.
the
There's
north of Normantal, there's excite potential up there as well.
There is as well. We do have a number of gold in soil anomalies that were found along the border of the Patton Pluton in contact with the Normantal volcanic complex also. So there's a potential for further gold mineralization to be found along the contacts of the Patton Pluton also, which would be a kind of similar nature of mineralization to what the Wallbridge guys have at their Fenelon project. So there's all sorts of potential here for further discoveries. So it's certainly an exciting one.
Well, this brings up the second part of the Bob Darney trend. He also said that, and you're seeing this, that along the way, mines tend to give you a bunch of very pleasant surprises. This news release just from a couple days ago is a very pleasant surprise to see that much coarse, chunky gold in a little veinlet that has been remobilized and flushed out all the quartz, and now you've got sphalerite and gold basically is one of those pleasant surprises. And I think there's going to be some very pleasant surprises in the preliminary economic assessment. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, you're right. And you're right about the mining as well. Usually some pleasant surprises once you get down there as well. So what's not to say once the original the portal is sunk and you start drifting down towards the high grade zone, you might make some other discoveries along the way. I mean, the entire rhyolitic dome usually has a certain level of background gold always hanging around. So you know that you're usually close to something. There's something very special about the system there.
Well, that will be exciting because then you get to go underground and actually see the rocks,
That's
not
it. That's it.
through the not through the microscope of a drill core. Now you get to actually look at the rocks.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I don't think our next interview is too far into the future there, Aaron. So I'll keep my fingers crossed to those wonderful, pleasant surprises that come along on an exceptional project, because at the end of the day, this is a very unique project that I think will be a future mine, and most importantly, a profitable future mine. And of course, more work is needed to get to that point, but that's where all the signs are pointing in that direction.
We certainly believe so as well, Alan.
Awesome. Well, there you go, folks. Amex Exploration is a company that I think you should, if you're interested in high grade gold in Quebec, right beside a mining town with lots of great drill holes. You should do your homework on. And that homework, I mean, bear in mind that companies pay me to sponsor my work. They don't pay me for my opinion. My opinion is based on 30 years of experience in this business, and I try to focus on what's important, what's coming out of the truth machine, what comes out of the scientific work that's done on these projects. I, I the comments, the bullish comments that I make about the project are not based on because somebody's a sponsor of my report. It's based on what's coming out of the truth machine and the homework that I do. But you should do that homework as well. And I think when you do, you'll find a really great story here in Amex Exploration, and I can't wait for some of that pending news to be made. So have a great day, Aaron. Thanks a lot. Everybody else, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.